The house that broke us. I never thought my mother would threaten to destroy me over four walls and a roof. The call came on a Tuesday morning. I was stirring sugar into my coffee, watching autumn leaves scatter across the deck of the house I'd bought with my own money, my own sweat, my own sleepless nights working double shifts at the hospital. The house my grandmother left me the down payment for. The house that was mine. "We need to talk about your brother," Mom said, her voice carrying that particular edge I'd learned to recognize in childhood, the one that meant someone was about to be blamed, and it was never going to be Daniel. "Good morning, to you too," I said, keeping my tone light even as my stomach tightened. "Don't be smart with me, Claire. Your father and I have made a decision. Daniel needs this house more than you do." The coffee cup stopped halfway to my lips. "I'm sorry, what?" "Daniel and Sarah are expecting their second child. That apartment is too small. Meanwhile, you're rattling around in a 4-bedroom house all by yourself. It's selfish, frankly." I set the cup down carefully, watching the liquid ripple with the tremor in my hand. "Mom, this is my house. I bought it. With money that should have gone to the whole family. Your grandmother played favorites and we've let it go on long enough. Your father and I think it's time you did the right thing and transferred the deed to Daniel. He's the one with a family to think about." The shock hit me like ice water. Not surprise, exactly. Nothing my family did truly surprised me anymore. But the audacity of it stole my breath. 28 years of being the responsible one, the good daughter, the one who didn't make waves, and this was what it bought me? "I'm not giving Daniel my house." "We'll see about that." Her voice went cold. "Your father's already spoken to a lawyer. Apparently there are grounds to contest Grandma's will. She wasn't in her right mind at the end. Everyone knows that. And if that doesn't work, well, there are other options. You wouldn't want this to get ugly, Claire." She hung up before I could respond. I sat there for a long time, coffee growing cold, trying to process what had just happened. My parents were threatening to sue me, to take my home. For Daniel. Always for Daniel, the golden child, the son who could do no wrong even when he did everything wrong, who dropped out of college twice, blown through 3 jobs in 2 years, married a woman who looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. And now they were going to gift him my house. It was their right to redistribute my life to make his more comfortable. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Your mother is right. This is what family does. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Then Daniel. "Come on, sis. You don't even need all that space. Sarah's been crying for days. You really want to be the aunt who made her cry?" I looked around my kitchen, at the backsplash I'd tiled myself, the herbs I'd planted in mason jars on the windowsill, the small scratches in the hardwood where I dragged furniture the day I moved in. Every corner held a piece of me. My work, my dreams. Fuck this. I pulled up Google and typed family law attorney near me. Margaret Reeves had silver hair cut sharp as a blade and eyes that missed nothing. Her office smelled like leather and old books, and when I finished explaining my situation, she leaned back in her chair and steepled her fingers. "Let me make sure I understand. Your maternal grandmother left you $20,000 specifically designated for a home purchase. You added your own savings, bought this house 3 years ago, and now your parents want to force you to give it to your brother. They say they'll sue, contest the will, claim Grandma wasn't competent. Was she evaluated for competency? She was sharp until the end, sharper than any of us. Good." Margaret made a note. "And has your brother contributed anything to this house? Repairs, mortgage payments, nothing. He's never even visited." Better. Another note. "Now I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before answering. Has there been any other unusual financial activity in your family, particularly involving your grandmother's estate?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Sometimes when families get this aggressive about assets, there's a reason beyond simple greed. Often it's because they've already done something they don't want examined too closely." The words landed strangely, like a puzzle piece I didn't know I was missing. I
I don't know. Grandma had her house, some savings. Everything was supposed to be split between Mom and her sister, my Aunt Linda. Supposed to be? Well, it was, wasn't it? But even as I said it, something nagged at me. Aunt Linda had been strange at the funeral, quiet. She and Mom hadn't spoken much since. I'd like to look into the full estate settlement, if you'll authorize me to do so. Sometimes these things are connected. I signed the authorization form, still feeling like I was missing something obvious. Margaret stood, extending her hand. In the meantime, don't sign anything, don't make any promises, and don't let them in your house without a witness present. If they want to sue, let them try. We'll be ready. I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt in days. Maybe I wasn't crazy for wanting to keep what was mine. The emails started that night. Mom. Claire, please reconsider. You're tearing this family apart. Dad. I'm disappointed in you. I raised you better than this. Daniel. Sarah's devastated. The baby is going to arrive in a crowded apartment because of your selfishness. Hope you can live with that. Sarah, who I'd barely spoken to in 3 years. I never thought you'd be this kind of person. Daniel's mother was right about you. I deleted them all and poured a glass of wine with shaking hands.
The next day, Daniel showed up at my work. He cornered me in the hospital parking lot after my shift, his face red with anger or cold. It was hard to tell in the November wind. "You're really gonna make us do this?" he said. "Take our own sister to court? I'm not making you do anything. I'm just not giving you my house." "It's not even about the house." He threw his hands up. "It's about you thinking you're better than us. You've always thought that." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. You went to college, got your fancy nursing degree, bought your perfect house. You love rubbing it in that you're the successful one." I stared at him, this stranger wearing my brother's face. When had he started to hate me? Or had he always, and I'd just been too busy trying to be the good sister to notice? "I worked for what I have," I said quietly. "You could have too. Fuck you, Claire." He turned and walked away, and I stood there in the parking lot feeling like I'd been punched. Margaret called 2 weeks later. "You need to come to my office. Now." Her tone made my blood run cold. When I arrived, she had documents spread across her desk like evidence at a crime scene. Her face was grim. "Claire, I need you to sit down." I sat. "I pulled the records on your grandmother's estate, the full accounting of all assets, transfers, and sales." She slid a paper toward me. "This is what was listed in her will. Her house, valued at $400,000, $200,000 in savings and investments, various personal items." I nodded. "It was all split between Mom and Aunt Linda, except for my $20,000. That's what should have happened. But look at this." She pulled out another document. "This is the actual final accounting. The house sold for $400,000, that's correct, but the savings? Only $50,000 was distributed. The rest just disappeared." My mouth grew dry. "What do you mean, disappeared?" "Someone withdrew it. Over the course of your grandmother's last 6 months, there were multiple large withdrawals and transfers. $70,000, Claire. Just gone." "That's not possible." "Who?" "Your mother was the executor. She had power of attorney for your grandmother's care." The room tilted. "You're saying my mother stole from Grandma?" "I'm saying there are transactions that aren't accounted for in the estate settlement. And your Aunt Linda, she filed a complaint with the probate court 2 years ago questioning the accounting. It was settled privately. She agreed to drop it in exchange for a payment." "Hush money," I whispered. "Essentially." Margaret's eyes were kind but firm. "Claire, there's more. I pulled your brother's financial records, public information, credit reports, that sort of thing. 3 years ago, right around the time of your grandmother's death, he made a down payment on an investment property. Guess how much?" I didn't want to know. I didn't want any of this to be real. $70,000. The shock of it was physical. My hands went numb. My brother, my mother. They'd stolen from Grandma, from her dying mother,
and used it to invest in property while telling me I was selfish for keeping the house I'd bought legitimately. That's why they want your house, Margaret said quietly. If you fight them in court, all of this comes out. The theft, the fraud, the settlement with your aunt. They're trying to intimidate you into silence. Oh my God, I couldn't breathe. What do we do? Margaret smiled, and it wasn't kind. We give them exactly what they ask for. We go to court. But I had a better idea. Or maybe a worse one. Looking back, I'm still not sure. My parents had announced a family dinner for Sunday. Thanksgiving was coming up, and Mom wanted to clear the air before the holidays. The invitation had come with a thinly veiled threat. It would be a shame to spend Thanksgiving separated. I hope you'll come to your senses by Sunday. I called Margaret. What if we did something unconventional? I'm listening. They want a family meeting. Let's give them one. She was quiet for a moment. You want to confront them directly with the evidence. I want them to have to face what they've done, not in court where they can hide behind lawyers. I want to look them in the eye. Claire, I have to advise you, this could go very badly. Emotions will be high. They're already high. They've threatened me, harassed me, tried to steal my home. I'm done being afraid of my own family. Another pause. Then, okay, but I'm coming with you. Sunday arrived cold and gray, the kind of November day that feels like winter's first threat. I pulled up to my parents' house, the house I grew up in, with Margaret in the passenger seat and a folder of documents in my lap. My hands were shaking. I'd thrown up twice that morning. You can still back out, Margaret said gently. We can handle this in court. Keep it impersonal.
No. I took a deep breath. They made it personal when they came after my home. Daniel's car was already in the driveway. Sarah's SUV beside it. Mom answered the door with a tight smile. Claire, you came, and you brought a friend? My attorney, Margaret Reeves. Mom's smile froze. Claire, this is a family dinner? Then there shouldn't be a problem. I walked past her into the house. The dining room was set like nothing was wrong. China plates, cloth napkins, a roast in the center of the table. Dad sat up ahead, Daniel and Sarah on one side. The empty chairs across from them might as well have been labeled defendant. What's this about? Dad said, gesturing at Margaret. This is about ending it. All of it. Tonight. I sat down. Margaret remained standing, a silent presence behind me. Mom brought out the food with shaking hands. No one touched it. Claire, Dad started, his voice heavy with disappointment. We hoped you'd thought this through. Your brother needs... I know what Daniel needs. I know what you all need. I opened the folder. What I'm trying to figure out is why you think I'm stupid enough to give it to you. Daniel leaned forward. What are you talking about? I slid the first document across the table. This is Grandma's will, the original one from the probate court. It lists her assets, her house, her savings, her investments. Total estate value, $620,000. Mom had gone white. This, I slid another paper across, is the final accounting filed with the court. It shows the house sale and a distribution of only $50,000 in liquid assets, which is interesting because according to her bank records, which I subpoenaed, there was over $200,000 in her accounts 6 months before she died. Claire, I don't think... Mom started. Where did it go, Mom? Silence. I'll tell you where it went. Someone withdrew it. $70,000 in 3 large transfers, plus multiple smaller withdrawals over 6 months. Someone who had power of attorney. Someone who was supposed to be caring for a dying woman. This is ridiculous, Dad said, but his voice was hollow. You're accusing your mother of theft, fraud, elder abuse. The words came out cold and clear. And then using that stolen money to buy Daniel an investment property, Sarah gasped. Daniel's face had gone from red to ashen. That's not... We didn't... Daniel stammered. June 2022, you made a down payment of $70,000 on a rental property in Oakmont.
The same month, the last large withdrawal came out of Grandma's account. I looked at him. Did you know, Daniel? Did you know where the money came from? He couldn't look at me. And Aunt Linda, I continued, she figured it out, didn't she? That's why she filed a complaint with probate court. That's why she and Mom don't speak anymore. You paid her off to keep quiet. Mom's hands were clenched on the table, knuckles white. You don't understand. Your grandmother, she wanted Daniel to have opportunities. Grandma wanted me to have a home. She gave me that money specifically because she knew you'd find a way to give everything to him anyway. And she was right. She was dying and you stole from her. You stole from your own mother. Watch your mouth, Dad said, but there was no force behind it. Or what? You'll sue me? Please do, because discovery in that lawsuit will make all of this public record. Every transaction, every lie, every dollar you stole. Is that what you want? The room was silent, except for Sarah's quiet crying. Margaret finally spoke, her voice calm and professional. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, Daniel, you should know that we have copies of all financial records related to Mrs. Morrison Sr.'s estate. We have the probate complaint filed by Linda Morrison. We have banking records, property records, and signed statements from multiple witnesses. If you proceed with any legal action against Claire, we will file counterclaims for fraud, theft, and elderly financial abuse. These are criminal matters, not just civil ones. You'd send your own mother to jail? Mom whispered, looking at me with something like horror. You'd steal my house after you already stole from Grandma? At least I'm doing this to your face instead of sneaking around behind your back. Daniel slammed his hand on the table. So what do you want? You want us to beg? You want to ruin us? I want you to leave me alone. My voice was steady now, clear. I want you to stop calling, stop texting, stop showing up at my work. I want you to drop this insane demand for my house. And I want you to understand that what you did was wrong. Claire, Dad said. And for the first time, he sounded old, tired. You're our daughter. Then act like I'm your daughter, not your convenient solution to Daniel's problems. Mom started crying, soft and broken. Part of me, the little girl part that still wanted her mother's approval, wanted to comfort her. But the adult part, the part that had learned to stand up for herself too late, stayed silent. If we agree to leave you alone, Margaret said, Claire will not pursue charges or make these records public. Your reputations remain intact. But if there is any further harassment, any attempt to interfere with her property or her life, we go to the district attorney. Is that clear? Dad looked at Mom. Mom looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at his hands. Fine, Daniel finally said. Keep your fucking house. Daniel, Sarah tried. No, she's right. I should have. He trailed off, unable to finish. I stood up, legs shaky but holding. Thanksgiving is in 3 weeks. Don't expect me. I walked out with Margaret behind me. No one tried to stop us. In the car, I broke down. Great heaving sobs that felt like they'd been trapped inside me for years. Margaret didn't try to comfort me or tell me it was okay. She just waited until I could breathe again. That was incredibly brave, she finally said. That was horrible. Yes, it was both. I drove home in the dark, and when I pulled into my driveway, I sat for a moment just looking at the house. The porch light was on. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. Mine. Safe. Home. My phone buzzed. Aunt Linda. Your mother just called me crying. I don't know what happened, but thank you. Then, your grandmother would be proud. I cried again, but differently this time. Thanksgiving came and went. I worked the holiday shift at the hospital, my choice, not theirs, and came home to a quiet house. I made myself a small turkey breast and watched old movies. It should have been sad, but it wasn't. It was peaceful. My mother sent one email. I'm sorry. I know you won't believe that, but I am. I convinced myself we were doing the right thing. I don't expect you to forgive me. I didn't respond. Maybe I would someday. Maybe I wouldn't. That was my choice to make. Daniel's investment property went on the market in December. I didn't ask if they needed the money or if the guilt was eating them alive. It wasn't my problem anymore. Christmas approached, and with it came the question I'd been avoiding. What now? When the crisis is over, when you've won, when you've stood up for yourself and survived, what comes after? I called Margaret, who'd become something like a friend through all of this. I'm thinking about reaching out to Aunt Linda, maybe having Christmas with her family instead. That sounds nice. Is it weird that I feel guilty? They're still my parents. He's still my brother. It's not weird. It's human. She paused. But Claire, you didn't do this to them. They did it to themselves. You just refused to be their accomplice. The words settled something inside me. I did reach out to Aunt Linda. She invited me for Christmas Eve with tears in her voice. I've missed you, she said. I'm sorry I wasn't stronger when all of this started. We're both stronger now, I told her. On Christmas Eve, I sat in my aunt's warm kitchen, surrounded by cousins I barely knew, drinking spiked cider and laughing at old stories. Linda pulled me aside at one point, her eyes serious. Your grandmother knew, she said. That last year, she knew your mother was taking money. She tried to change her will to protect more, but she ran out of time. That's why she gave you that $20,000 directly. It was all she could shield from them. Why didn't she tell me? She didn't want you to carry that knowledge while she was dying. She wanted you to remember her with love, not anger. Linda squeezed my hand. But she told me, made me promise to watch out for you if things went wrong. I failed at that. I let them intimidate me into silence with their settlement money. You're here now, I said. That's what matters. Spring came early that year. I planted a garden in my backyard, tomatoes, peppers, herbs, flowers. Every day I worked in the soil, I felt more rooted, more myself. My parents never contacted me again, except through lawyers, finalizing some remaining estate paperwork. Daniel sent a single text in March. I sold the rental property. You were right about everything. I'm sorry. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. I started dating someone I met at a hospital fundraiser, started taking art classes, started living instead of just defending. The house stood around me, solid and mine. Some nights I'd walk through the rooms, touching the walls, reminding myself that this was real, that I'd fought for it and won, that wanting to keep what was mine didn't make me selfish. It made me human. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled it, if I wish I'd been gentler, more forgiving, more willing to compromise. I think about the girl I used to be, the one who would have given up her house to keep the peace, who would have swallowed the injustice and called it love, who would have set herself on fire to keep her family warm. And I think about the woman I became instead, the one who said no, who demanded better, who looked at her mother across a dinner table and called theft by its name.
No, I tell them. No regrets. Because here's what I learned. Sometimes love means boundaries. Sometimes family means distance. Sometimes the price of peace is too high, and the cost of justice, even when it's painful, even when it's ugly, even when it breaks everything apart, is worth paying. My grandmother used to say, a house is just wood and nails until someone fills it with living. She was right. But she also knew that before you can fill a house with life, you have to make sure it's standing on solid ground. You have to make sure the foundation is yours. I have that now. Solid ground. A foundation that's mine. And on the nights when doubt creeps in, when I wonder if I was too harsh, too unforgiving, too cold, I walk out onto my deck and look at the garden I planted, at the life I'm growing from seeds I sowed myself. And I know I made the right choice. The house is mine. The life is mine. The future is mine. And I'm never giving that up again.